Hello collectors and welcome to my review of the S.H.Figuarts Mega Blaziken. First Mewtwo, then the original starters, an amazing dive into the Pokemon property. Then Lucario to go after the quick sales. Then this guy here. And many aren't pleased with how it looks. When revealed, many turn a cold shoulder to this figure. But does Blaziken get the last laugh in the end? Well, let's take a look and see whether or not it's worth adding into your collection. In the looks department, Blaziken will be good for some, while others have already written it off. Because Blaziken is a digital design which can bend freely, this physical figure doesn't exactly match up with the 3D model. Some examples being that the chest and head both seem to be a bit bigger than the stock artwork. However, aspects like the paintwork are pretty solid. Though the paint does bring up some small issues like some markings left over from the production process. Here's a look at the head where you can see the paintwork is pretty great, specifically for the eyes. Nice and clean there. Unfortunately though, you can very easily see where Blaziken's head snaps together near the neck, right down there where my finger is. Moving down to the chest, you can see the mold lines specifically up by the collarbone, which might bother a few of you out there who need to have a perfectly clean figure. You can also see that there are some mold lines on the bicep too. Don't worry too much about these though, because it's really only noticeable under close inspection. Like, whenever you go to pick it up. I'd also like to take the time to make mention of the paint on the chest, specifically where the black meets the red, right around here. It looks very nice, and there's not a single mark out of place. Moving down to the main focal point, I feel, of Blaziken would be the flames coming off of the wrist. They start off semi-translucent at the wrist, and as they start to move up to the tip here, they get clearer and clearer, which is an amazing effect, and is really nice to see in hand. There's also just a little bit of paint on there to help achieve this effect too. Now, they're made of a soft plastic, so they're super flexible, so you really won't have to worry about them breaking at all or snapping. Maybe just coming detached at the wrist, but even then, as you can see, there's just a little bit of glue holding them on, so if they do pop off for some reason, you can just go ahead and glue them back on, no big deal. Of note though, the one on the right arm for me, right down here, it had this gunky material on it, so you may just want to inspect your Blaziken up close and just get rid of any of that gunky material you might find. And here's a side shot of a Mega Blaziken, where again you can see there's great paint application, and the spike on the calf blends in very well with the leg too. It's held on by glue, and you may notice that there's just a teeny bit of glue slop on mine, and realistically speaking, I don't find it to be that big of an issue. So overall, those who want a perfect replica of Mega Blaziken might not get it out of the Figuarts, and those looking for the cleanest Blaziken also probably won't find it with the Figuarts. Those technical issues aside, the paint is pretty great, and it feels like typical Figuarts quality. Overall, in hand, Blaziken doesn't really feel cheap. Despite the issues some may have with this figure in terms of looks, in the articulation department, wow, Tamashii Nations did an amazing job with Mega Blaziken. So first up for the articulation of Mega Blaziken would be the neck. The head is attached to the neck on a ball joint, so you're going to be able to get just a little bit of movement out of the head area itself, and the neck is attached into the body on a ball joint. So if you want to spin Blaziken's head around, you can do that. If you want Blaziken to look up, you can do that. Basically, there's going to be no restriction of movement there at all. Moving down to the shoulders, they're attached into the body on a ball joint, so you're going to be able to get just a little bit of rocking motion here and there. You can spin the shoulders around as you want to. You're free to do that. And then there is a hinge in the shoulder, allowing you to move the shoulders up and down, and forward and back, however you want to. Basically, the shoulders move exactly as you would expect shoulders to move, free range of movement. And then here, as you can see, there is a bicep swivel. So you can spin Blaziken's arm around like that if you want to. And then moving down to the elbows, there is the classic Figuarts double hinge. So you get 2 points of articulation there, which is really cool. Continuing down the arms of Mega Blaziken here, on the forearms, you'll see what looks like a little cut right there. Yep, that is a forearm swivel. So you could spin the forearm around if you want. And what's really cool, as I said before, is that the flames on the wrists of Mega Blaziken here. They're made of that soft plastic type of material, so even though they do feel a little bit cheap in hand, they're actually very flexible, and if you brush them against Mega Blaziken's head or another part of their body, it's not going to snap off. It doesn't feel like that at all. So don't worry about this colliding into Blaziken's body at all. And speaking of the wrists, they are on ball joints, so you're going to be able to spin Blaziken's hand around if you want to, get a little bit of rocking motion out of it, and yeah, that's pretty much it. Now, for my favorite point of articulation on possibly any action figure, fingers. Love this. So Blaziken's fingers are on double swivels, or ball hinges, as some like to call them. And you can move them just pretty much like this. You can close the hand up to make a fist. You can spin the fingers around, like so. And of course, if you're too like me, you can have Blaziken give somebody the bird. Moving to the main body, as you can pretty much see from here, Blaziken has two ball joints. One right here in the chest. Gives you some pretty good movement. You can spin it all the way around. I mean, you know, it's a ball joint. And then you have a ball joint in the waist, which allows for even more movement. And you can really get a lot of bending poses out of Blaziken from here. Pretty good range on those ball joints. Moving down from there to the hips, ball joint, squeaky. So you can get a lot of leg movement out of Blaziken here. Now, something you are probably expecting me to say is that there's a pull-down hinge allowing you to pull the legs down just a little bit at the hips. No, it's just a peg there with a ball joint on it. Yeah, pretty strange. I wonder why they decided to go that route. But anyway, there is an upper thigh swivel, which allows you to spin the leg around if you want to. Pretty cool. Knees feature a double hinge, but unfortunately there is this big spike on the calf of Blaziken here, which does block the articulation just a little bit, but I mean, with that much range, it's kind of pointless to complain about that, but you do get full function of the double hinge there. Moving down from there, you have the ankles of Mega Blaziken, which are on barbell style or double axis ball joint, whichever you prefer to call it. You can see the foot moving around there, which is pretty nice. Lots of interesting poses can be taken with this. And then here's a really cool function of the articulation here for Mega Blaziken. See these three claws here? They're on ball joints. Yeah, there's a lot of points of articulation on Blaziken. It's pretty awesome. Bandai really pulled out all the stops for this. So if you really want to get a particular pose out of Mega Blaziken, chances are you're going to be able to do that. So when it's all said and done, I really have to tip my hat here to Mega Blaziken. I think it is the most articulated Pokemon action figure Tamashii Nations has made thus far. If you're looking for a nice Mega Blaziken action figure, well, in the articulation department, you cannot go wrong with this one. So far for the Pokemon figures, Bandai has been doing a very nice job of giving us a nice, neat package with each release. Mewtwo gave us Shadow Ball and Mew, Charizard gave us a piddly little Ember effect part, Blastoise gave us Hydro Pump, Venusaur gave us Vine Whip, Lucario gave us Aura Sphere. So that must mean Mega Blaziken's going to give us something pretty awesome, right? Maybe a Sky Uppercut effect part, or maybe Flamethrower, or Fire Blast, or Blaze Kick, or Flare Blitz, or something, right? Mega Blaziken comes with everything you see here. You get a Stage Act 4 support arm, and the same Pokeball stand that we've gotten with the previous releases, except for this time it has sort of a Megastone theme to it. And here is a look at the support base. You know what? Honestly though, this is a pretty cool holographic effect to it, and the black, it really does stand out. So in terms of actual quality, this support base, it is very nice, and I'm glad that they decided to give this to us, but I don't know if this is just enough for Mega Blaziken. So, yeah, it's the most expensive Pokemon figure released from Tamashii Nations thus far, and you'd think that maybe we would get something to go along with it, maybe even just a simple reissue of that little Fireball effect that came with Charizard. But no. Luckily, there is the Tamashii Effect Flame and the Explosion coming out earlier next year, but still, that's a little disappointing. When it comes to sizing, surprisingly, Mega Blaziken isn't too large. First up, here's Blaziken alongside two different Gokus from the S.H.Figuarts line. Next up, alongside the S.H. Monster Arts Godzilla 1995 Birth version and the S.H. Monster Arts Destroya from Tamashii Nations. Here's Blaziken alongside some Nintendo Figmas. Here it is alongside some Nintendo Nendoroids. And finally, alongside the other Tamashii Nations Pokemon figures. If you'd like to see Blaziken alongside Lucario, stay tuned to the end. So, as you can see, Blaziken really isn't that large. So if you've already cleared off shelf space for this bad boy, chances are it will fit into your display just fine. So, buy Blaziken now, skip it, or wait for a deal. Sculpt and paint-wise, your mileage may vary for how you see the proportions and the overall quality of the figure that you actually get. Articulation is pretty much perfect, and there's only nitpicking when it comes to what is lacking. Only one accessory is pretty lame, especially given the fact that the other Pokemon come with effect parts. But luckily, generic effect parts you can buy separately look great with Blaziken. Overall, Blaziken isn't a bad figure by any means, it's just not that exciting if Mega Blaziken isn't your absolute favorite. This thing was built to be a figure for you to pick up off the shelf and just to fiddle around with, but I just think it's rather bland, and I'm not drawn to actually do that. I don't regret the purchase. I think in terms of an action figure, it's the best Pokemon one Tamashii Nations has made, but it could have been made a little bit more exciting.